Hi guys, welcome to a quick update video regards the Feiyu-Tech Mini3D 3-axis gimbal. Now those of you who are loyal subscribers, or those of you who might have bumped into my videos already, will know that I've already done an unboxing video and I've done a review video of this product. The product that I've done the review on is the one on the right here, and as you can see the one on the left looks different. Now basically, anyone who hasn't been following any of the progress on this gimbal will not really know that basically the one on the right, the 4-ball version, as per my review, it didn't come out with flying colours. There were great things about it that were really nice, but there were problems out of the box. Unfortunately, there are firmware issues, and there were firmware issues. They can be countered. The biggest problem that I had was when I put it on my Phantom as a good test bed, I found that the footage was bordering on unusable at times. Even in moderate winds there was a lot of vibration, there was a lot of wobble, basically physical wobble. It wasn't jello, it was physical wobble. And there's been a lot of talk on the forums. I joined a great forum that had already been in place for absolutely ages, created on RcGroups, with loads of people who had been using Feiyu-Tech products like me over the last few years. It's kind of embarrassing I hadn't been on there beforehand. And I also put a blog together with a review of everything, and basically we've all been sort of talking about, you know, whether or not their product was good, whether it was bad, whether people liked the experience, and it seems to be a very mixed review. Basically what it seems to be is that the 4-ball version obviously comes with 4 spheres, balls, anti-vibration balls, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I attributed in the review that as being the problem for the vibration. I felt that, number one, the fact it's under tension, so in other words this is like the mounting bracket, this goes on there, you just pop these balls through there, and it hangs underneath. I felt that these are ridiculously soft, and I still do feel they're a little bit ridiculously soft, and that was causing way too much wobble in the footage. What was interesting, however, is the fact that some people had that problem, some people didn't, and as always with testing products, you need to kind of try and find out what the differences are between different people's setups. You know, why were some people getting good results, why were some people getting bad results? My opinion was it was those balls. So the first thing that I did was I got on my 3D printer and I created what I called a hard mount for this bracket, which basically mounted it to my Phantom with no anti-vibration spheres, literally physically hard mounting it to it. Now obviously that can mean that there's a lot more vibration going through it and jello can come in. However, most importantly, I wanted to see whether or not there was vibration. Interestingly, when I thought it would probably cure it, it turned out that it didn't. It didn't actually cure it fully. It improved it ever so slightly, but it didn't cure it fully. And that got me thinking, what could be the problem with this? Where is this vibration coming from? A couple of things struck me. Number one, when I actually looked at it, I found that the 2 bolts in this back bracket were ever so slightly loose, almost to the point where there's a tiny bit of play in there. All it did was a case of just tightening them up, no problem. I don't think that was really attributing too much to it, to be honest. But the thing that really caught my attention was the way that this gimbal is actually mounted. What you've got is the gimbal mounts to this 4-ball version of the bracket, and these 4 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, and underneath you've got this metal bracket that it bolts down to. Now the problem with that is that if you look here, there's play, because there's nothing supporting it at the front here, and all the weight of the entire camera is held over that top bit, and that means that it allows for some movement. Now it's not a lot of movement, and to be honest, in calm weather you probably won't see much of it, but I suspected that that might have something to do with it. And again, it may be just one thing compounding this. It could be a case of a combination of that wobble with the soft spheres were causing the problem. So that was one thing that I looked at. So my suggestion to other people out there was immediately, you know, try and fix this basically. My method was literally just taking the tip end of a cable tie and wedging it down inside there really tight so there was no movement. Other people took my suggestion of a little bead of hot glue to fix it in place, and for the most part people who have actually tried that seem to have had a much improved footage. Maybe not necessarily perfect, but they certainly seem to be, you know, getting in the right direction, and it does seem to make quite a considerable difference. The other interesting thing was it seemed that people who were using the rail mount system, so in other words these mounting points here, they were actually getting very good results. Now, I tested this myself by building my Alien 560 backup, which is my only quadcopter frame with a rail mount. Put it on, standard spheres, didn't do the hard mounting, anything like that. I did wedge my cable tie in the front of it, and the results were remarkably better, almost, you know, to the point where I say, you know what, that's exactly how I would expect this gimbal to be performing. Now, I and the other people all had rail mount systems, it seemed, that had the vibration, anti-vibration dampening inside the rail mount as well. So in other words, the tubes for the rail were held inside rubber or silicon holes, and that obviously counteracted some of that vibration. So I think there is an amount of dampening that this was doing. So it seemed to be that the 4-ball version with a rail mount system would be a perfectly capable gimbal, and maybe with a bit of firming up of these, adding some G3 Ultra, slightly firmer ones, would get rid of that. However, for the poor people who were trying to do it without the rail mount system, that wasn't resolving the problem. Now, during all of this process, through the forum, as we're going along, all of a sudden someone pops up and says, well, hang on, Feiyu-Tech's new website, they put it on there, and there's 6 anti-vibration balls. And sure enough, we popped over to the website and there were 6 anti-vibration balls. It was all on a rendering, there were no photos of it, there was no demonstration video, and likewise there was no demonstration video ever of the 4-ball version either, which was slightly suspicious on Feiyu-Tech's website. However, I did some digging, and other people did some digging as well, and sure enough, they had completely redesigned within literally, I would say, 2, maybe 3 weeks of the general release of this gimbal. They'd completely redesigned the top mount of this gimbal. Now, whether this was as per reaction to my review video or other review videos or reading the RcGroups, I've been informed by Feiyu-Tech that they have been actively looking at the RcGroups forum. They've said thank you for a lot of the blog stuff that I've put together, and I think more importantly that other people have put together as well, to kind of, you know, beta test in a way this gimbal. Now, that's embarrassing in many respects, because, you know, the general public should not be paying to beta test a product. My personal opinion on this, as I have advented to Feiyu-Tech in an email, is that they need to react to this. They need to talk to customer base. If people complain, they should basically offer them a new gimbal. In my opinion, that's my opinion. I think in Europe or in America, you know, the general consensus that is, if you send a product out that's not fit for purpose, you have every right to either get your money back or certainly, you know, ask for a replacement product. Feiyu-Tech have assured me that anyone who comes back to them, they will be given, quote, a significant discount on a 6-ball version. I've again reiterated that I'm not sure that's really appropriate. I think, you know, they may need to look a little bit closer at that, because this really will rattle the confidence levels if they don't respond well. Anyway, the good news from the point of view of people who are looking for gimbals, you know, and for the people who might be able to get a replacement from them or a discount or whatever, is that the redesign on this bracket looks promising. Now, I've not flown this, I've not tried it. I will of course be doing a full test of it. I'm going to be doing another review of it. I'll do some more videos, some comparison videos. But taking a quick look at it, the main thing that you've got to notice is that not only have you got obviously more anti-vibration spheres, but they've actually addressed this whole overhang issue. Now again, they've not told me whether this is attributed to the work that I've done or RcGroups or anything like that. I like to think that their designers and their engineers were capable of doing one test with themselves, just like we all did, and work out where vibration was coming from. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, you know, who knows. But most importantly, they have completely changed the design. It's no longer fixed on these 4 points, even though they've left the holes there. It's now fixed in 3 locations around the circle of the top motor, which is kind of the perfect place to be fixing it. Most importantly, as you can see there is a screw at the front, and this is all an aluminium bracket. It's no longer a plastic bracket, so it's 3 grams heavier, this gimbal, than the other one, so not a major difference. But most importantly, it gets rid of that overhang issue, so that is a really promising sign for reducing the wobble that came from the 4-ball version. Other than that, there really are no changes whatsoever. I would say this sits ever so slightly higher up in the air, say if you're mounting it to a Phantom, off the ground than the other one. I think they've managed to, either by accident or by purpose of design, lift it maybe 3mm higher, which is good for people who are trying to get it under your landing legs. It couldn't go under mine without extending them. I'm still not sure it would anyway, but that has been slightly tweaked. Other than that, there's really no changes in terms of the hardware that you get. You get your rail mount system, you get your wiring harness, harness. The wiring harness hasn't changed. Unfortunately, they still have put on this one a plug on the wiring harness, whereas I would much prefer a socket. And generally speaking, my understanding is that the way most people have it is that you have a plug on the power end and you have a socket on your application. That's how I've always run it, but still, that remains the same. Doesn't matter. All I did with my old one was I just recrimped a socket onto it, and that meant I could use it. Not complicated, not difficult, but you know, they've done that. And likewise, you still get the little version here with a socket on it, so you might have to switch that over. And yeah, and other than that, you still get, you know, your USB connector. You get your mini USB video wire, which, if you don't know what I'm talking about, have a look at my unboxing or my review video and you'll see what it does. It basically means you can use it for FPV without having a big long dangly cable. The other thing that's worth noting, as I did in the review, is that this doesn't come with the 5-volt output power, and it still doesn't. Now, I suspect that's to do with them not wanting to fry non-GoPro cameras, and hence it's an option for you to add, but there is no cable in there for you to add yourself, and you'd have to open this up and actually solder it to it. So a bit of a shame though. I'd really like to have a 5-volt cable, and the main reason I would like to have a 5-volt cable is if I lift up my Hero 4 with its battery in it, even on the 6-ball version, you can see the balance with the battery in it is still pretty bad. I've always been a firm believer that a gimbal should be well balanced before you use it, because then you're counteracting against nothing but just basically movement rather than weight. But with the Hero 4 with the battery in, it's still pretty out of balance. Hero 3 with the battery in is very close to being well balanced, and I found that the Hero 4 without the battery is perfectly balanced. But again, if you don't have the 5-volt cable output, you can't use it because you're not powering your camera. So shame that hasn't been modified, but either way, most importantly, frankly, they are negligible issues compared to getting some good footage out of it. So that's just a very quick overview for people who are interested. The people who are watching this are probably people who have either bought or are intending to buy the 6-ball version. If you're intending to buy one of these Mini3Ds, and again, I reiterate, I do believe there is a good gimbal inside all of this, regardless of the problems with the 4-ball version. I am a believer that there is a good gimbal for the price point here, but if you're going to buy one, check with your retailer. Will it be the 4-ball version? Will it be the 6-ball version? You don't want the 4-ball version if you can avoid it. That's all I would say, really, is try and get one of these versions. Then you don't have to counteract any of the problems. If they only have 4-ball versions, do a bit of haggling with them. See if you can get the money down. Point them to a few videos saying that there are a few problems with it, and you may well find that you get a good cheap bargain on a gimbal. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do for now with this video. So stay tuned, subscribe, have a look at my blog and the other RcGroups forum. Links are below this video, and that will be much more up to date than this video, probably within a couple of weeks time anyway, but hopefully by the weekend I will manage to get this in the air, do a proper test, do a comparison, and kind of re-review the product to see if this really is the gimbal that I believe it could be, hidden in the background. Thanks for watching. So just a quick tag on to the end of this video. I've just seen on RcGroups that a few people have been delivered the 6-ball version of the gimbal, but their mount does not have the 3 screws, so that it does not deal with the overhang issue. It basically fixes in the same way that the 4-ball version does. Something that I just think that people need to be aware of. Obviously, Feiyu-Tech have decided that the version they've sent me is going to be the final version, or at least the latest version. So if you are intending to buy one of these, you really want to be finding one that does have the 3 screws on the upper mount. Otherwise you may have that overhang issue that can cause some wobble. Just be aware of that. Obviously, if you have received the newer version like I have, I'd love to hear from you. I want to make sure that there are others out there that have this, and then hopefully we can at least get enough information out there for people who are prospective buyers, so they can choose the right one.